Thank you so much for joining me on the Grow and Grieve podcast. I have my sweet friend Tasha here with me. We go to church together. That's how we met. And I would love to hear her story. Oh, like you're making me want to cry. What? You look like you're about to cry. You're like eyes are rolling.
Oh, no.
I
was just ready. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me on your podcast and to share my story about grief.
Yes.
So where should I start?
Well, tell me a little bit about your story.
Okay.
To start.
So about my story, I've suffered a lot of grief growing up. Mm-hmm. My first memory was at 6 years old when my great-grandmother died. And I didn't understand death at that moment. I just knew the reaction of everyone around me was something crazy, crying and wailing and falling over the casket. So I think that set in a fear in me. I remember being afraid. So the next time death hit I was 13 when my sister lost her first baby. And then a year later, she got pregnant again and lost another baby, which I said I was responsible for. So I won't go into detail about that, but that was still fearful. And I just didn't have a healthy view of death, as healthy as you can have it, right? So then fast forward, 21 years old, my mother dies. She was always an asthmatic, always in the hospital, but you never expect her to die because she always came back home. And she always had the testimony that God, he's a healer. He's your savior. He'll keep you. So it wasn't really expected that she was going to actually die. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. So from that, my mother's death, I'm 21 years old, and now I have to enter life with just not knowing anything. Right? So before my mom died, like I said, it was sudden. I promised her I'd go back to school.
Okay.
So she dies July 30th. I go back to school the next month to finish college because that's what I told her I was going to do. From that, I got to get my own apartment. I have to get my own car. I have to do all of these adult things that I'm totally not prepared for because I'm 21, but I'm really only 17, 18. Right. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of these things, I'm just not mature enough to handle them. But what I learned in that moment was to sink or swim. And so I just started swimming, and I don't know how to swim well. So I'm just really like a duck. What do you say? Their feet are moving. But I'm looking like I'm doing well, and I'm accomplishing things, but I'm really just surviving.
I think, honestly, so much of just grief in general, it puts us into that just survival mode. Like, we look like we're doing okay, we think that we're doing okay, but just like underneath the surface, we are just pedaling and just like barely getting by. From a life coach perspective, how does unresolved grief impact one's day-to-day life?
Oh boy. You don't think that it's impacting your life because it's like, oh, my mother died, but I graduated college. Oh, my mother died, but I accomplished this. I got a nice job. So you think that you are doing really well, but you're still in survival mode. So from a life coach perspective, it's like you have to acknowledge where you are. And I'll be honest with you. I did not know that I was in survival mode. My mother died in 1994. Did not know I was in survival mode until, you ready for this? 2021.
Oh, wow.
I just discovered, because sometimes you need language for things. Now, I knew something was wrong. And this is how I can pinpoint something was wrong all those years. I get married. This is a beautiful, wonderful time. I'm happy, but there's still a void there. So I can't fully celebrate. I can't fully embrace. I can't fully just be happy in this moment. Why? Because my mother's not here. I remember graduating from college. It's like, okay, I promised her I would go back, and I did it. And this is terrible. I hate this whole day. This is a dumb day. And I literally said that. I was like, what's the point of all of this? There was no point in it for me because my mother wasn't there. Having my first kid. Beautiful moment. Loved it. That was like one of the most peaceful times in my life. But my mother wasn't there. Everything led back to that. So family could be over. You're celebrating. Everybody leaves. At the end of the night, you lay down and it's like, man, I wish mama was here.
Yeah.
I wish she was here to see this.
Yeah.
And then people see you and they're like, oh, your mother would have been so proud.
Yep.
And that's well-meaning, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know what I'm going. That statement, yes, it made me feel good, but then it made me feel bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's just a constant reminder that mom's not here.
She's not here. So 2021, since the pandemic, I decided to go to therapy.
Okay.
Because I thought it'd be fun. Who does that, right?
Right?
Me. I thought it would be like, oh my God, this will be so much fun because I love anything psychology, the brain, the mind, how trauma affects. Like, oh, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Nice.
Yeah.
I almost minored in it, but it was going to require like 3 extra classes. And
You were exhausted.
nursing school was more than I can handle as it was. So
I'm sure. But yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm a certified breakthrough coach.
Okay.
I'm also a licensed minister. So I have all of the tools and the things.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm still living with this
Yep.
void. So I go to therapy and she's like, hey, tell me, what are you here for? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I just thought it'd be a good idea.
I love that, by the way.
She's like, okay. Nobody's ever done that before. She was like, so tell me a little bit about yourself. What are your traumas? And I'm like, oh, I don't really have any like major traumas. So I go into my story and she's like, your life's riddled with trauma.
It is.
Yeah, but I'm like, well, I know how to juggle it.
Yeah.
So because I have all these skills, I know how to survive.
Yeah.
Right? I know how to make it through. I know how to make Tasha happy.
Yeah.
I know how to, if I'm having a bad day, I can flip that joker around.
Yeah.
Tell a joke to myself and laugh. Call a friend who's funny, because you have friends. I have funny friends.
Yeah.
Have friends I go deep with. I got it all categorized.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So,
I have the categories too.
right?
I'm like, okay, which friend do I need today?
Exactly. What do you need today?
Yep.
That's still survival. Because nothing's resolved on the inside.
Yep.
So in therapy, she asked this question because we're trying to get to, because she start like, okay, you do have trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a matter of where we're going to start with the trauma.
Right.
So we get to my mother and she says, because, I believe in God. So let's backtrack. The night before my mother died, I had a dream. And in the dream, my mother said, I have to go. I'm going home. You're going to be okay. Always trust in God. You're going to be you're going to be all right. Always trust in God. And I woke up. So when I got the phone call later on that day, I already knew she was gone. So from that moment, my survival technique was trust in God. And that's what I did, trusted in God. So the therapist asked me the question, just because you had the dream and you trust in God, are you angry your mother died? And I'm like, well, you go through the stages of grief,
Right.
the denial, the anger. I list all of them because I'm educated, right?
And you want her to know that you're educated.
Exactly. I got this. Tell me something I don't know.
Right.
She was like, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, were you angry with God or disappointed in God? And so with everything in me, I'm fighting those tears like, because how could you
ask me this question?
Because how could you trust him and still be
Yeah.
angry and disappointed about something you knew was going to happen?
Yeah.
That was his will,
Yeah.
right? So in that therapy session, it tore all of that down. And it was like, I don't know if I'm angry, but I'm definitely disappointed.
Yeah.
So I came out of survival mode, just acknowledging that I was disappointed in God because not only did she die, right?
Yeah.
And she was a sweet, wonderful, because I can think of 10 other people that God could have taken, that he could have taken besides her.
Right.
Right? I'm not only disappointed she died, I'm disappointed she wasn't there when I graduated.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed she wasn't there when I got married.
Yeah.
Disappointed she wasn't there when I had my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all this list of disappointments came.
All those voids.
All those voids that kept me in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
So once I listed all of that and wrote in my journal and did the whole come to Jesus cry moment,
Mm-hmm.
and gave myself permission to have those moments.
Yeah.
So.
And I can't help but wonder, like, do we hold back because we don't give ourselves that permission to feel, like, because I know it's hard to admit, like, I'm angry at God or I'm disappointed in God.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to give ourselves permission to think that or to go there.
Yeah.
But we kind of need to move forward.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So that permission I gave myself, because I didn't even think about it, because I would always say, no, I had the dream. I know this is God's will.
Yeah.
And she would say things before she died, like, when I go. She kept talking about it. And my mother was a faith-filled woman.
Yeah.
She's seen God's hand in her life over, like I have her Bible and her testimonies written where they found her dead.
Yeah.
So she had died a few times before.
Wow.
So I knew God had been faithful.
Yeah.
When I was sick, she died. And I remember looking out the window in the ambulance like, she's dead. I just knew.
Yeah.
And she came back home. And I remember looking, like I just kept staring at her. And she was like, what's wrong? And I told her. And she was like, oh, I did die. I asked the Lord to send me back to raise you, to see you make 21. He was faithful.
Yeah.
I made 21 June 28th. She died July 30th.
Wow.
So it's like he was faithful.
Yeah.
So how can I be so disappointed?
Right.
She could have been 105. I still would have wanted her here.
Yeah.
So I would rationalize with statements like that. She's not suffering, so I shouldn't be disappointed.
Yeah.
But in that session, I gave myself permission. And I know it's only been a short time, but I can truly say now I'm thriving.
Yeah.
So both of my kids graduated, where are we, 22? Yeah, this year. Like, where are we? They both graduated, one from high school, one from 8th grade. That was the first time that I was able to celebrate.
And
Enjoy. And not, I was getting teared up. Because it was such a great moment.
Yeah.
I was like, this feels great.
Yeah.
Now I'm mad I was cheated out of that all these years. But it was such a great moment, and I decided to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So if I was overdressed for the occasion, I didn't care, because this was a moment that I was like, no more limitations, no more boundaries. And I was able to say, man, Mom's not here, but I'm grateful that everything she put in me gave me the strength to make it to this day.
Yep.
I didn't give up. Even, I kept going. I kept moving. And I'm a bad chick.
Yeah, you are.
Hello? I was like, wait a minute. Because I created a timeline. This is an exercise.
Okay.
For anybody that, a few little coaching techniques I use that may be listening. So I went and I created a timeline from the time my mother died.
Okay.
That was just the time I started. If there's some disappointment in your lives or whatever, you can start at whatever point you want to start at.
Okay.
And list all of your accomplishments, right? And so I had did that on my own, not with I told the therapist about it, and she's like, oh, that's great, I'm going to take that. So she took it. And I listed all of my accomplishments on the timeline. This year I did this. This year I did that. Oh, I taught a class here. I did that. And I looked at it, and I'm like, wow. So now I went a step further. What did I learn from that? Because I was identifying my strengths.
Okay.
Because when you're just surviving, you don't see the strength that you have.
Right.
You're so focused on your weaknesses. You're focused on your pain and what's going wrong, because you get kind of a jaded view of yourself because it's coming from that weakness. Or you get a jaded view because now you're just too strong and confident.
Right.
It's no balance.
Right.
And so I did the timeline, all accomplishments, and listed all of my strength, what I learned from that, whether it was good or bad, because everything's a lesson.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of gave me the physical, tangible tool to use to survive and know who I am.
Right.
Right? So that's one of the tools that I use, yeah.
I love that.
And I go back and revisit it because sometimes you forget.
Yeah. And then I guess this is kind of going back because I asked the life coach question.
Sorry, I just got into it.
No. I love it. How did, when you were 21, how did you navigate the loss of your mom? Like, not just like going to school, but like emotionally, how did you navigate it? Or did you do what I did and just stuff it down? And I was like, okay, well, we'll unpack this sometime down in the future.
I think emotionally I let it out because I'm one of those people. I'm the youngest, so we tend to be crybabies, is what they say. We're not crybabies. We're just sensitive, you know. I think emotionally I cried, a lot. Okay. I would leave class and go in the bathroom and cry and come back, my faith in Christ, of course.
Yes.
I had older people that kind of was their proxy as a mom.
Okay.
That I can lean on. I learned to never not talk about her.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about her all the time, whether you're uncomfortable with it or not.
Yeah.
So I didn't suppress that part of it. And I have my family, but we were all like in our 20s, my sisters, we were all trying to figure out what just happened to our lives.
Yeah.
So emotionally, I think I navigated well. I would think.
You're like, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah. So I leaned on my faith a whole lot.
Yeah. I have to say I'm like you, to where when those big life events came up, it's that void. And I know that I still struggle with like Mother's Day in particular, because it's just, for me, even though I have kids, for me it's just like that constant reminder, like, I don't have a mom. And for some reason, I always struggle with that day, more so than her anniversary. Like, her anniversary is coming up on Tuesday, and I feel unfazed by that. But for some reason, Mother's Day in particular is just one day that I'm just like, is it like going to be a good year, or is it going to be a bad year? Is it going to be a year where I just need to sit in my bathtub and cry, or is it going to be a year where like I can just enjoy the day? Like, for some reason, this one day in particular, I don't want to cry.
No, we're talking about grief.
I struggle with that one day.
What I did for Mother's Day was, the first year I let myself have it. Mm-hmm. So all of the first years, if you're grieving, let yourself have it. Yeah. However it looks, it won't look neat. My thing was a Snickers bar, Pepsi, and Lifetime. That's back when Lifetime was like popping. Which probably wasn't a good choice.
Especially at Christmas time.
Christmas time is different. But the next year, what I did, I was like, I got to do something different, because this is not going to work every year.
Like, this is not healthy.
Exactly. So I decided to gift someone else. So I would pray about it and ask the Lord, what do you want me to do? So what that looked like was to celebrate somebody else.
Okay.
I think the first year I wrote a poem for all of the people who may have lost their mother. And I asked, could I read it at church to bring comfort to them? Yeah. And I would pray. Sometimes it was like, by that lady. I bought this lady some kind of gift, some flowers. And I didn't really talk to this lady. It's just I felt like God highlighted her. And she just started crying. And she told me her story. And she was still in grief, and it brought comfort to her. Oh. So I decided to turn that day around and make it to mean something meaningful. Okay. Yeah, so I couldn't be robbed of that joy. Yeah. Because I wasn't a mother yet.
I feel so bad for my kids, and I'm like, sorry, Mommy's depressed today. And it's just like, not that I'm not thankful to be a mom. Being a mom is something that I've always wanted to be. But like, that's just like a trigger day for me.
We got to take that day back.
I know. I'm like,
we got to take that day back.
Yeah. It's just like, I never know. Leading up to it, Luke's is like, so what are you feeling for Mother's Day? Is it like
next year's going to be a different? We're going to make that different next year for you. Because to me, that's a thief. What does the Bible say? The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That's a thief of your day that you celebrate with your children. Yeah. And you did have a mom. Yeah. You didn't have her long, but you did have a mom. Yeah. So we're going to take that day back for you.
Because it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. And that's what I had to do. Like, every year, my sisters want to get together. They want to go to the cemetery. And I get that, and people do that. Yeah. But I had to put the kibosh on that, too. Yeah. When I had a baby. Yeah. Before, it was like, I can go with you guys. And I never understood. I would just be around like, okay, I don't get this. Yeah,
I don't get
it's not for me.
Cemetery thing.
It's not for me. I'm not knocking you if you do it. If that brings you comfort, that's great.
Yeah.
But it didn't bring me comfort.
Me either.
So
I'm like, take me to the beach, because that's where she loved to be. She loved San Clemente. And so before we moved here from California, like, that's what I enjoyed doing. Like, whenever I was, like, missing her, I would want to get down to San Clemente, because, like, that's where I just, like, felt better, you know?
Okay. It brought you comfort.
Exactly.
It brought you joy. So we're going to flip that for you this year.
I don't have San Clemente here.
And you don't have it here, but you can create your own little vibe and little thing to make it more of a celebratory day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know how much life I got left. I can't do this every year.
Right?
And so the enemy likes to set up patterns.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Cycles.
Yep.
So every year I can come back and torment her this day. And we can't allow that because he has no authority.
No.
None. So I turned all of the days, because my mother loved Easter.
Okay.
That was like her jam.
Yeah.
Holidays period, but Easter and Christmas were her big, but Easter was big.
Yeah.
Everybody got a basket. It was like this huge, and so I just kind of flipped it around.
I love that.
And I do things that are celebratory, that'll bring me comfort, that'll bring me joy. So every year around the anniversary of her death, the family would just be, oh my gosh. It was like, okay guys, everybody wants to get together, but it's more of a somber. And so what I did for the whole family, I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. Hey guys, instead of us being all sad and down, let's celebrate.
Yeah.
Mama loved family.
Yeah.
She loved getting together and laughing and having fun. So we started going to the beach,
I love that.
the lakefront. So it became our family day.
Yeah.
And we just, all the kids running around, and it turned it around for the whole family. So now July 30th, everybody's like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So just got to turn those days around. Yeah.
I'm like, I need that. So then what would be 3 takeaways that you've learned through the whole process of grieving that you'd like to share for anybody that's listening?
Of course, acknowledge. Acknowledge if you're disappointed, hurt, sad, right? Acknowledge it within yourself, acknowledge it with God and your support system.
Yeah.
Find support.
Yes.
Get a grief counselor if you need to, a close friend. You know, talk about it as much as you need to.
Yeah.
Explore your feelings about it.
Don't shove them down like I did.
Don't shove them down. Explore, because they may be new feelings.
Yeah.
Right? So explore them.
Yeah.
And take your time.
Yeah.
Grief has no time limit on it. Nobody can tell you how long or how short.
Yeah.
Like I was just saying, I think it was probably this week, thinking about this interview. Because we don't want to forget the person either, right?
Right.
We don't want to forget them.
No.
So that's another hard thing. But honestly, since I had the therapy and came out of survival mode, it's like, oh, the weight of thinking about my mother is not there all the time.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, because it's like a weight. Now, there are times something happens, I want to say, hey, you call mom? Yeah. But it's like, man, she's not here. But I can smile now.
Yeah.
And I give myself permission to cry.
Yeah.
If it's a sad moment, you know. I've suffered so much grief. Jeez, I won't even talk about that. My brother was killed 14 years ago. And that was the moment, though. He was killed in a hit-and-run accident. So unexpected. I had just had my son. He was 3 months old. And he had called me maybe a couple weeks and was like, hey, I'm going to come see, I heard you had the baby. I'm going to come see him or whatever. Never got to see him. But it was at that moment God showed me how to grieve. He showed me, like he said, because I had just had the baby. Yeah. I had preeclampsia with my son, so I was still dealing with all the high blood pressure, the medication. Like, I was a complete, like, what? I'm like, I was not in a good space. Yeah. Dealing with the health issues. It was just a lot going on at that moment. And I was like, God, what? How, what? I was like confused. And he's like, you can't handle this right now. And I'm like, well, because we only know one way to grieve, right? Yeah. What's that? Just cry. Right. And fall out.
Cry and then just, for me, avoid. Like, okay, just, again, going back to the survival mode. Like, okay, well, this is just the hand that we're dealt, so we got to keep going. Yeah.
But God told me, you cannot handle this. Because my sister, it's a hit and run. Yeah. So everybody was in this space of, because it brings back mama's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when one person dies, it goes all the way back.
Yep.
And so that's what it was doing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the same sentiments.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, right? So I'm like, Lord, help me, because I don't have this weight on me to like be bawling out crying.
Right.
So I'm like, well, did I love my brother? So now I'm questioning my love.
Yeah.
And the Lord was like, there's a way you can grieve in me, that I'll hold you. And
I
I'll,
love that.
oh, it was such a deep supernatural moment.
Yeah.
He was like, you just had a baby. Your hormones are everywhere. You're still
Right.
dealing with the illness,
Uh-huh.
the preeclampsia, because I was still on medication.
Yep.
You've been in and out, going to emergency room, trying to get this blood pressure down. You physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually can't handle this. Let me hold you. I'm like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What it looked like was me there with my son, watching TV if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me felt guilty. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. My sisters are calling, are you coming over? And I'm like, oh, I'm on my way. And they're crying. And so I would hang up, get the baby ready, put him in the car seat, and he would just cry and cry and cry. And so then I would get him back out, and the Lord was like, I told you, you can't handle this. I didn't tell you to go over there. You're doing what you think you know to do. Would you give me an opportunity to do this for you?
Oh, man.
And when I say he comforted me, I know it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I know legit. It was not. I cried, but it wasn't that deep, wailing, heart-wrenching
Yeah. Like
cry.
uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable. And
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? He's like, I'm holding you. I'm comforting you. And you will grieve your brother, but it'll be in my timing.
Yeah.
So now on a nice sunny day, he rode his bike a lot. I see somebody riding a bike, I might shed a tear.
Yeah.
But it's a tear with the comfort of Jesus, knowing
Yeah.
that he's with him.
Yeah.
My brother had some struggles, and the Lord was like, you cried a lot for him when he was here.
Yeah.
And I did. I would cry and pray and cry and pray. And the Lord was like, I've taken him home to be with me. He's happy. You can be happy and rejoicing and knowing that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to grieve the way everybody else is grieving.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Pew. Pew.
That is, yeah. Wow. That
So
is so deep.
it was,
That is so deep.
it was deep. It's still deep.
Yeah.
You know, now, like recently we just lost the church mother. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, I'm waiting to jump in with my way of grieving.
Yep.
And he's like, you can celebrate Mama Dougie
Yep.
because she's with me.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to miss her. He's like, yeah, you're going to miss her. I have so much grief. I'm like the grief poster child. I hate to laugh. Sorry, that comes in play. Sarcasm.
I'm the same way. Like,
Yeah.
I struggle with funerals. Like, not because I'm over, like, emotional about it, but it's like the opposite. Like, I just
Don't know what to do.
don't know what to do, and then it's awkward, and then I laugh, and it's not an appropriate time to be laughing. But, like, I know when my mom passed away, and anytime I hear bagpipes, I start laughing because the guy that played the bagpipes was terrible. And it was just all over the place, not in key, just all over bad. And so I was recently at a funeral and they played bagpipes, and it was just like, it just brought back my mom's funeral, and all I could do is like laugh under my breath and try not to be disrespectful because it just reminded me of the bagpipes at my mom's funeral. So I'm like, I really have to be careful because I'm like, I don't want to be
Well, no.
disrespectful.
Why can't that just be okay for now?
I don't know. I just feel like I should not be laughing at a funeral.
Well, don't laugh out loud. Let the people see you. But
Go
if
to the
that's
bathroom
right
and
now,
laugh.
that brings you comfort.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a different way in Christ
Yeah.
that we
It
can
really-
grieve.
Seriously, it
And
really is.
He taught me that. I recently had a great nephew that just died. He was 3.5 months old.
Oh, man.
What do you do with that?
Yeah.
But he just really comforted me. I cried, and I wrote a poem.
Yeah.
I titled it Ashton, Our Little Warrior. Because he fought. Even though he was 3.5 months, he had surgeries, and he was hanging on. But I wrote that poem, and it became like healing for me.
Yeah.
And
That became your therapy.
it was my therapy. So
Yeah.
there's different ways that you can find
Yeah.
to kind of, and everybody's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
even though I want to be fine, but I
Yeah.
don't, because like you said, should I be laughing right here?
Right.
Like,
right.
I just don't even question it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is how he's taught me how to grieve and how to do things, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So that's all I have for you. Question-wise, is there anything that you want to add?
No. No, not at all.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I really
Yes.
appreciate it. I just want to remind you that goodbyes are not guaranteed. I hope this podcast watered your life so you can grow in grief today. Thank you.